Welcome to the Cruise Brief, where we keep you up to date with what's going on in the cruise world. I am David, and today we are going to talk about a cruise line who is increasing gratuities, lawsuits that are running amok, and a cruise line that's changing their embarkation process. Let's dive into it. Bad things come in threes. That's what they say, right? Well, Royal Caribbean is finding that out the hard way. They've got slapped with not one, not two, but three lawsuits within the span of 8 days. And they all have one thing in common. Somebody fell down. We've all taken tumbles that we probably wish we could forget, but these folks are taking it a little bit further. They're taking it into federal court, saying that the cruise line did not keep them safe, didn't give them warning for slippery surfaces. Now we've got different ships, but they're all the same story. We've got wet floors, we've got pool decks, we've got buffets, and we even got a rogue lounge chair on the Lido deck. First up, we got a guy who slipped and fell in the oasis of the seas. Now he was in Central Park, and the story says that something happened that caused it to be slick. Rain caused it to be slick. Now, he did fall. He hit his head and he was out for a bit. And he wound up having to have a neck brace on, I believe, for the rest of his cruise. So he's contending that the line did not put warning signs out that, hey, this floor, it's slick. Second, we've got a woman who was at the Windjammer on Navigator of the Seas, and she ate it. She bit it, man, and she fell. Now that's on deck 11, and we know that deck 11, there's the buffet, but you've also got the pools and the hot tubs on that same deck. So when you mix pools, hot tubs, buffets, you're probably going to get some slick floors. Water gets tracked in from the pool into the buffet, and the next thing you know, you've got a lady who's laying on the floor where she has fallen down. Now again, she is saying there were no signs saying that this is a wet floor. Third, we got a dude on Odyssey of the Seas who tripped on the Lido deck. What tripped him? It was a lounge chair leg out, he says, in the middle of the walkway. And he's contending that the staff, the crew, should have been more attentive, and they should have put those chairs back where they belong. Now, I don't know about you. I've been on many pool decks, and quite frankly, those chairs move around quite a bit because people move them. Now, if the crew is going to be able to go back in and move all those chairs back at all times, man, that's going to take a lot of crew. Now, I will say, if they see something out of sorts, if it's sticking way out there, then maybe, yes, the crew could do it if nobody's sitting in it. But we don't know on this situation was someone sitting in the chair? Was it just a rogue chair that maybe the wind had blown and pushed it out into the way? I don't know. But, I guess we'll find out when they go to court. Now, Royal Caribbean has not commented publicly on any of these lawsuits, which is pretty standard in the industry. They're not going to come out and say, oh, yeah, it was like that, or oh, no, it's not. They're just not going to comment on it. They'll let the lawyers take care of it. And the company does say, they refer back to their strong safety record and says that it frequently exceeds the regulatory requirements. I don't know. I guess we'll see how this all plays out in court. But the lesson here is watch where you're going. Pay attention. Literally, pay attention. So maybe there's some middle ground here. Maybe the cruise line should be more attentive to things that maybe might be unsafe. Maybe cruisers should pay attention to where they're walking. I don't know. I'm just saying, I don't know. Pay attention to where you're going. Look, I've been on many cruise ships, and it never ceases to amaze me how many people are not situationally aware of their surroundings. How many times have you been bumped into by someone who wasn't? They were looking, but they just did not pay attention, and then they're walking right in front of you. They're cutting you off. They're moving. They're bumping you. I've been in these situations, especially out on the Lido deck. People just aren't situationally aware anymore. Go to the buffet line. Go to the buffet line. You're going to see it. People are just going to walk right up, bam, right in front of you, and you're just going to look like, did they not see me? I'm standing right here. Now, I'm not saying all of this was their fault. I'm just saying maybe paying attention to wet floors might have helped prevent some of these situations. I don't know if I need a sign telling me, hey, that floor's wet. Some people may. I'm not saying that they don't, but I don't need it. If I look at it, I'm going to say that floor is probably wet. I guess some people may want to have the sign out there. And if you look throughout history, why do we even have those wet floor signs anyway? It's because someone fell and they took it to court and they won. So we'll see what happens in these court cases. But just if you're out there, maybe look where you're walking, pay attention so you don't get hurt. Not just so you don't sue someone, but just so you don't get hurt. And look, accidents are going to happen. Happens all the time. I have fallen, when I wasn't paying attention or I missed something. But it happens that way all the time. I'll say this, if you're walking through the buffet line like you're walking through your living room, that's a pretty risky move in my book. Now, if that story doesn't make you think twice, this next story is going to make you think about your pocketbook or your wallet. If you woke up this morning and you said, man, I think cruising is a little bit more expensive today. Well, it's because it is. Carnival Cruise Line just increased their gratuities on their ships by $1 a person per day. $1 a person per day. Now, before you go looking at me saying, David, it's just $1. Let's do a little cruise math. And we all know that sometimes cruise math can be a little bit sketchy. So let's be careful here, okay? So a family of 4 cruising on a Carnival cruise for 7 days. That's $28 extra that they weren't thinking they were going to have to pay. Now, with this extra dollar per person a day, it's going to add up to $28 on a 7-day cruise. And you look at me and you say, David, that may not be all that bad. It's $28, okay? It's less than $30 extra. I can handle that, but we're always talking about how cruise lines are nickel and diming us to death. Well, they're dollaring us to death too. But I will say, look, this has been going on for a decade. Back in 2016, this same family of 4 would have taken this cruise, and their gratuities over 7 days would have been around $373. That same ship, that same trip today, $476. Now that's a 24% increase over a decade. Now, to be fair to Carnival Cruise Line, they are not the most expensive gratuities at sea. That is held by Margaritaville at Sea and Virgin Voyages. They both come in at a whopping $22 per day per person. Now, if that same family of 4 on a 7-night cruise, that's going to be $616 for that family that week. Now, Virgin Voyages will let you prepay gratuities at a discounted rate. So if you're going to cruise with them, you do want to look at that and maybe go ahead and pay that prepaid amount. I always simply say, go ahead and just pay it up front. You know you're going to have to pay it. Book it, pay it up front. Count that as part of my cruise. This is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to spend. If the cruise line allows you to pay it up front, go ahead and do that. Margaritaville at Sea's gratuities are fixed. It's a fixed rate. There's no changing it. There's no prepaid to say, let's get a little bit lower rate. That they are what they are. Now, I don't know if Jimmy Buffett would be okay with that. I mean, God rest his soul. But I think he probably wouldn't like that very much. Now, I'll just say this. Nobody's arguing that the crew members do not deserve their gratuities. They absolutely do. They work very hard and they work very long hours. Now, I will say that there are some people who say that the crew members don't actually get their gratuities. There's an argument that I see people make on both sides of this. So we do see that quite often. But when you have cruise lines continuously raising their prices like this, it's kind of like your streaming services. When you drop the cable network and you say, hey, I'm going to go with streaming services because cable is outrageous. And you drop it down and you start going with all the different streaming services. And the next thing you know, over time, you look and you put all of them together and you go, wow, I'm paying that much? That's kind of what it feels like to me. There is some good news in all of this for the folks who are already booked. If you were booked prior to April 2nd and you had your gratuities on there, you're good to go. You don't have to pay the extra fees. You're set, you're settled. Let's just all keep that in mind next time. Let's go ahead and pay those gratuities up front. That way, if in the middle of your waiting period, the time you booked it, by the time you go, if a cruise line decides, hey, we're going to increase those gratuities, you're already set. You're covered. You got your prepaid there. Hopefully, they'll do like Carnival did and not go ahead and charge you the new amount because you prepaid it up front. And we've got another cruise line who's making another change. This one may not be so bad. Princess Cruise Lines is now setting certain times for you to embark if you're doing an Alaska cruise out of Seattle on 2 of their ships. Princess seems to be my favorite cruise line. My wife and I really enjoy going on them, probably more than anybody. However, I will say this, I enjoy being able to just board when I want. Typically, I can go anywhere between 10:30 and 12:30 and get on the ship. I don't really have a set time with Princess, but I do understand why they are doing this one out of Seattle. They need to be able to get the people on and off the cruise ships, or get the people on the cruise ships in a timely manner and without all the chaos. Nobody wants to be standing outside in Seattle when you've got a bunch of drizzle coming down on you. Here's how it works. About 30 days before you're sailing, you're going to get an email. And that email is going to say, hey, this is your check-in window, right? Now, if you've booked Princess Air, or if you booked a hotel through Princess, then they're going to go ahead and they're going to auto-assign it for you. So you'll already be in there. Everyone else, though, you're going to need to do it in your check-in process. Slot it in when you do it, your check-in on your app. If you don't do this, if you neglect it, if you ghost the email, they're going to give you that slot 24 hours in advance of your embarkation. So I would say it's pretty low stakes, if you will, but I'll pay attention, look for that email, because you want to get in there and say, hey, here we go, I need to check in and get my boarding spot. Royal Princess kicks off their season this year on May 2nd, going to Alaska, and they're hitting their usual spots. They're going to Juneau. They're going to Skagway. They're going to Ketchikan. I like saying Ketchikan. I don't know why, but when I say Ketchikan, I automatically, my brain says, catch me if you can. It's just something here, I don't know, something stuck here that says, catch me if you can. I don't know. What about you? Do you do that? Anyway, and then the next one, and they'll also stop in Victoria. The Star Princess will start the next day on May 3rd, and they'll do a similar itinerary. And look, if you're going to Alaska on one of these two ships, I think this staggering can be okay. I think it will be a good thing for people to be boarding at staggering times. It kind of cuts down on that mass chaos of people coming in at one time and being able to get on the ship. I do like this for these two ships and this port. I will say for other ports that I've been to, I kind of like the openness of being able to go when you want. However, I have been caught in a long line before, and I was thinking, boy, if I'd have just waited a little bit longer, or if I'd have got here a little bit earlier, maybe I could have got on the ship a little bit sooner. You know, it's like the grocery store. I can see the lines, and I say, oh, that line's moving pretty fast right there. I want to get in that line. And when I get in that line, it comes to a screeching halt. Every time. Am I the only guy who picks the wrong line every time? I don't know. Maybe I'm just hexed in that way. Maybe there's some sort of curse on me that says that guy gets in that line, we're slowing down. Anyway, I think it's a smart move by Princess to be able to get people on the ship in an efficient manner. I'm all about efficiency. I think this will do it. If you're booked on one of these two ships, be sure to be checking your inbox. So there you have it. There's a lot going on in the cruise world. A lot more than just what I told you about. Some of it matters, some of it doesn't. But now you know the difference. So we'll catch you next time when you check back into the cruise brief with Travel by David. And if you like this video, please do hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and share with a friend. I would greatly appreciate it. I am David from Travel by David, and we will see you next time.